That's Dean Prescott.
Okay guys, so we've just realised that perhaps we've had some sound problems for the beginning of the stream, so sorry about that. So this is the Fanaleds Challenge brought to you by ARL TV. My name is Lee Thompson, and alongside me I have Conrad Venter. We've been having a little chat for a while, Conrad, but we'll discover later on how much of that you guys managed to catch. We're just coming up to the end of our qualifying session in the Fanaleds Challenge. They're all on a lone qualifier. They've got 4 laps to get their time in to place them on the grid.
Yeah, like you said, we've been chatting away for a little while. We're not sure how much everybody scored to that, but at the moment we've got an empty track. There's nobody out there doing anything. So it looks like everybody has set their qualifying laps, and we're just waiting for the time to count down to the race.
Yeah, and the guys are running the Cadillac CTS VR. We're at Summit Point Raceway. We've got an hour's race ahead of the 60 minutes, and we shall see. If there's going to be any further updates to the qualifying time. But as you said, Conrad, the track looks pretty empty at the minute. So I'll have a little run through the standings, and this will be our provisional grid with 4 minutes to go of the session. So currently in P1, overall pole position, we've got Richard Sheraton. He is a 1 minute 8.471. He's just a 10th quicker at a minute than Kevin Parrish in second. They've got a 6/10 gap then to Maxime Ramstein in third place, with Sam Kumo then a further 6-7 tenths behind in 4th. Mike Perry 5th, Dean Prescott in 6th, Mario Buradri in 7th, with Alexei Svidz. I practiced this one before I started. You wouldn't tell, would you? Alexei Svintsov, I'm going to go for. I do apologise for that, with a 10.1. Mikhail Gustafsson with a 10.2. Chuck Johnson in 10th. Andrei Loganov in 11th. Paul Van Mierlo in 12th. Ivan Bordo Bosco in 13th, Hendrik Hemmler in 14th, Make Rogan in 15th, Dominic Schuler 16th, Thiago João Costa in 17th, Marcel Langner in 18th, Danny Mastenbrook in 19th, and currently bringing up the rear of the grid is Mark Cardix with a 1 minute 11.8. So we have around 3.4 seconds spread through the field.
Yeah, we've got 20 guys who set a lap time so far. As far as I can tell, we've got about 21 entrants. So there's one Lone Ranger out there who hasn't been able to set a lap time yet. And like I said before, in order to take to the grid, you have to set a valid lap time in qualifying. Otherwise, you won't be able to start the race.
Yeah, it was important for everyone to get that banker in first, and I think everybody has. Right, so just the last couple of minutes counting down, waiting to see if anybody is going to put in a further lap. Doesn't look like we have anybody currently on a run. And I don't see any changes to the grid since I had a little run through a moment ago. Looks like we've still got our 20 runners with Richard Scherterin on pole position by just over a tenth of a second.
Yeah, the only guy that was out there on the run was Mike Rogan, and he's just coming to the pits. So once again, we've just got the fog to look at.
Okay, well, with just this minute counting down now, and it seems that everybody's all wrapped up, we're just going to have a quick look at Fanaleds' upcoming products. So we'll have a quick look at this video. And so the prizes for the winners of today's race is going to be Leo Bodnar SLI F1, which is what we saw in the images there. Fanaleds is going to be producing software to run those on the people systems. There's also iRacing credits up for grabs for these guys as well. There's a last seconds countdown. So yeah, those top few positions: Richard Sheraton on pole, Kevin Parrish second, Maxime Ramstein in fourth, Sam Kumo fifth, and Mike Perry in fifth. Top 5 positions. Going to have a standing start. It's a long run down to the first corner, Conrad, and it's one of the slowest corners on the track in the fog. It's going to be important for everyone to take it cautious and hit their brake markers.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens into turn 1. I hate to jinx it, but for me it's not good news, especially with the fog, and it's so easy to miss your braking point at Summit Point at the best of times. The fog is just going to add to it.
Yeah, and it's a long race for these guys, so 60-minute race. They have got one free tow available if they need it during the race, and we're expecting everybody to need to make at least one pit stop for fuel and for tyres anyway at some point. So hopefully, long race, everybody can be patient and get a nice clean first lap. These are big heavy cars for this narrow, tight, twisty Summit Point circuit.
That's a track that's really got a little bit of everything. It's got the long start finish straight with a very slow turn 1. And then you come up to a nice flowing bit through turns 2, 3, and 4 when you get back into a couple of twisty corners, which then opens up into a couple of faster corners, which leads you back onto the main straight. So you really have to be on top of your game to get a decent lap in here.
Yeah, there's really no opportunity for overtaking in that middle sector. But equally, I can imagine that the fastest guys, those 2 drivers at the front who've got a little bit of a gap to the rest of it, I can imagine that's probably where they're finding most of that time, is in that tight, intricate technical section. Right, looks like we've got everybody pretty much on the grid, so I think we're going to have to wait the last 30 seconds or so to count down, as there's some other people in the session who aren't driving, so they're going to have to wait for them not to take to the grid. And then we shall start our Fanaleds Challenge 60-minute race at Summit Point. So these cars are going to be tough to get off the line as well. So for the pole sitter, Richard Sheraton, he's just going to be concentrating on just getting a nice clean run into that turn 1. Right, revs are building, so lights going to be green any second to begin the Fanaleds Challenge. And everybody's away. Clean start from the leader. He's braked away already from Kevin Parrish, and Parrish is under pressure from 3rd position, who was Maxime Ramstein. As we look through the fog, and I can just see a stream of headlights coming towards turn 1. But Sheraton has got that turn 1 secured. Parrish looking to hold around the outside into turn 1, holding that 2nd position, with Ramstein then in 3rd, Mike Perry 4th, Bourdreau in 5th, Sam Kumo's dropped a couple of positions. He's down to 6th from 4th in the grid.
And we've had some casualties at the back. It looks like there's been an accident. It looks like there's quite a few cars that was involved in that. We'll have to go back and see what happened, exactly what happened there.
Yeah, I think the first dozen cars or so looked like they got through fairly cleanly, so that must have been then the field further back. Sheraton was already making a break from it in the middle sector, scampering away from Kevin Parrish in 2nd. He's got a good half to 3/4 of a second gap already before they've even completed the lap. Parrish is under a little bit of pressure from Ramstein. He's keeping him fairly close proximity, with Mike Perry still behind, then Bourdreau, then Kumo. Dean Prescott's had a great start to the race. He's up into 7th position now. Andrei Loganov all over the back of Dean as they come out the final corner, but he got perhaps a slowdown penalty, did Loganov. He suddenly slowed right down on the main straight there.
Yeah, it's very easy through that final turn to pick up a slowdown penalty. You only have to put a half a wheel over the curb, so to speak, and you get that. You get penalised for that.
God, just looking at the replay of the start, 3 wide into turn 1 is what all started the instance there. Everybody else behind did what they could to try and avoid, but there just wasn't the space. So 3 wide, very, very optimistic going into this turn 1, even without the fog, even without these big heavy cars. But hopefully, for those not directly involved, they'll recover and hopefully didn't get too much damage.
I did think I was going to have to eat my words there for a second about my suspicions for turn 1. Like I said, the first half of the field got through nice and clean, and then it all went a bit pear-shaped for the bottom half.
Kevin Parrish now is clawing back on that initial advantage that I thought Sheraton had gained in that first lap. So as they begin lap 3, Kevin Parrish now is just 0.3 of a second behind as they head down into turn 1. The front 3 are making a little bit of a break for it, so Ramstein's doing a great job of hanging with his front 2, and they were so much quicker than the rest of the pack in qualifying. Mike Perry's caught a little bit in no man's land, with Birdry then behind, Sam Kumo and Dean Prescott in 7th, Gustafsson in 8th, I'm going to call him Alexei in 9th, sorry, and Chuck Johnson rounding up the top 10.
I think the important thing for these top 3 guys at the moment is just sort of to pace themselves through the race. It is a long race. There's no point in really wearing out the tires right now, going wheel to wheel with the guy in front and try to make up positions.
Yeah, these guys are already running a pretty strong pace. So those first few laps, the leaders are running just a second or so off what they managed in qualifying. So they're not hanging about. As you said, it is a long race. They need to make sure they don't get themselves in a tangle, as these front 3 are really breaking further and further away now. They're closing up. So on that last lap there, Parrish was 2/10 of a second quicker than Sheraton ahead. So he's still trying to close in and hound that leader into an early mistake.
Yeah, the top 3 is the only 3 guys in the race at the moment that's lapping in the 109s. Everybody else is in the 110s, 111s, and I think if they can keep it on track, might be early to say, but it's going to be one of these 3 that might be taking the checkered flag. Of course, the pit stops are going to play a role as well. It's a short, tricky entrance to the pit lane. Short pit lane as well, and the fog might just spice it up a little bit if you miss your pit box.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we
might be going a little bit nuts.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we have any real difference in strategy. So as you say, we know that everybody's got to stop at least once, but is anybody going to do anything too different? Go for a short first stint, long second stint, or vice versa? Or is even somebody going to go for two stops with short stints? I wouldn't have thought so, but we'll see what variety plays out as we go through. I mean, certainly the leaders, you'd feel like perhaps they're lighter, being that they're breaking away so quick. But we saw in the qualifying times their pace over the rest of the field, perhaps. So we've got lots of time to see how the strategy develops. As one of the leaders, who did I see there? No, sorry, I thought I get everybody panic. I thought I saw one of the leaders in the gravel, but it must have been a back marker as I scrolled through my camera. So
I think the key to the pit stops is going to be the tyre wear. Tyre is so important on this car, and we did a little bit of running for ourselves earlier. In order to change all 4 tyres, you need about 15 seconds in the pits. So if they can time it so they can change the tyres and put the fuel in without losing too much track time, is probably going to be the optimum strategy going to be looking at. Not to sit in the pits and wait for the tyres to go on with the fuel already in the car.
Yeah, I'm just watching the tail end of the top 10. So looking at P11 and P12, which is Hendrik Hemmler and Marcel Langner. Langner doing a great job of trying to hassle Hendrik through the last sector of a lap, but just lost a little bit maybe coming out the final corner, so wasn't able to get a decent run on the straight. What a great livery, the Jack Daniels livery of Langner there. Looks really smart, even in the fog.
Absolutely. I mean, it's great to see these guys keeping it so nice and tidy through the fog and minimizing the mistakes. I mean, yeah, Hendrik and Marcel, they were the last 2 runners that didn't get caught up in that first lap incident. So for them, it's all about clean racing now. Keep themselves in hand.
These front 3 cars now getting on for 6-second gap to 4th position behind, so they're really charging away from the rest of the field. We're only 7 laps into this hour-long race, and they've got a back marker ahead to negotiate now as well, as Kevin Parrish very, very close to the back of Sheraton there as they came through the middle of turn 1, but just lost a slight amount on the exit. But putting Sheraton now under lots and lots of pressure. And I was just saying about the battle between guys a minute ago battling for the lower positions, and Henrik just had a little spin somewhere on track, so we'll try and get a replay of that in a moment if it hasn't come up already. But I was about to say, we've just got a back marker coming up from the leaders, so that could just create an opportunity maybe for Parish or for Ramstein to make a jump. Parish got a decent run coming out of the out of turn 9 as they now go through turn 10 onto the front straight. Kevin Parish tucked right in the slipstream. This back marker is going to be getting quite worried as Parish comes alongside, drawing himself up towards turn 1. Got the inside line. Sheraton didn't really defend too hard. Who's going to be latest and bravest on the brakes? Looks pretty even, but Parish just runs a little bit deep into the turn, manages to hang on to that outside line, and Kevin Parish up into P1. Richard Sheraton down into second, now under pressure as well from Ramstein in third place.
Yeah, that was a fantastic pass, and it all came about just for having a good run out of the last corner.
Yeah, it's that middle sector as well, that tight, twisty middle sector. You just need to keep it as clean as you can and get the best run out of that sector that you can, for then the two main straights on the circuit, giving you that chance, as you said, towards turn 1. And that's just what Sheraton is trying to do now, back to Kevin Parish, trying to stick as close as he can as they come out the final sector, coming through turn 9, and try and get a drag in the slipstream along these two main straights. And Parish just has a little bit of a lock-up as they go through turn 10, but didn't seem to cost him too much in the entry. See how much momentum he loses on the exit, but it looks like he's judged that alright. Sheraton is going to have to stay tucked in behind for another lap.
I think Sheraton did a bit of following in the last corner there. He himself had a little lock-up as well, the exact same as Kevin. So it was just positions remain.
And as we were looking at the leaders, Sam Kumo's made a mistake somewhere. Dean Prescott is now up into 5th position. Sam Kumo, teammate Apex Racing UK, now down into 6th position, trying to recover that spot that he's lost. So
it wasn't that big a mistake. It was just towards the end of the previous lap. He ran wide in turn 1, and he lost that place to Caddy while he was negotiating his way back into the track.
Yeah, so easy to run on hot into that turn 1. You've had that long run down the main straight into one of the slowest corners on the track, and yeah, just cost that one position. At least he's recovered without damage. Right, let's have a quick run through the top 10 for now. So Kevin Parish, P1, Richard Sheraton in P2, Maxim Ramstein now trying to be the one to pressure Sheraton into gaining that second position, currently in third. Mario Baudry then in 4th, having a very lonely race at the minute, all on his own, with Dean Prescott in 5th, and Sam Kumo again runs wide into turn 1. He's going to lose another position, I think, to Alexei. So Alexei now has moved up into 6th position. Sam Kumo down into 7th, 2 bad laps in a row. Loganov then in 8th, with Van Merlo in, Gustafsson in 9th, and then Chuck Johnson a lot closer than when I last looked at him to that 9th position, currently rounding out the top 10. But yeah, Sam really struggling to slow the car down. And there's a car off in the background as well. He's nice to round back. He's already relocated to the pits, I think.
So there's a couple of the back markers running, doing laps with damaged cars at the moment, and it's something that's really going to hurt the lap times. What I suspect they're trying to do is run till their pit stop for their quick repair, so as not to make a second pit stop. But for them, it's all about damage limitation at the moment.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how those guys manage to come into play later in the race, as these three leaders still nose to tail, as they have been pretty much from the start of the race. As Shurton spins up the rears coming through turn 5, coming through the exit of turn 5, as he tries to claw his way onto the back of Kevin Parrish again for a decent run into the back of the circuit.
I have to admit, I didn't expect Ramstein to be so close to them after the first couple of laps. It's lap 11 now, and he's still there.
Yeah, he didn't quite match them in that qualifying. So yeah, he was 6 tenths off those front two in qualifying. But as you said, he's doing a great job to hang back in. Sam Kuma now is under lots and lots of pressure for the 7th position that he's currently holding. So Andrei Loganov in 8th has closed up a lot, as Sam's been struggling in that turn 1 braking zone for the last couple of laps. So Loganov's looked like he's got a good run coming out that final corner as they head to the main straight, but perhaps not quite enough for this lap. And Sam Kumo does manage to hit his marks this time into turn 1 and ends up the rears as he comes out the corner. Just about manages to hang on to it and try and stay on the tail of Sam.
I think maybe for Sam it was just a case of making that one mistake and then trying to get the place back and the time back. Just pushing a little bit too hard, which then led into another mistake. All he has to do now is just settle down, get in a good few clean laps, and just pull it up.
The guys were telling us earlier on as to how his tyres just drop off after the first few laps. The leaders are running just about half a second perhaps off what they managed at the very, very start of the race. So even though they got lighter fuel, as Batmarker spins conveniently out the way, Henrik Hemmler spins into turn 1 before the leaders reached him, so at least he didn't cause an issue. But yeah, those tyres just starting to bed in a little bit maybe, and it's just a matter of everybody adjusting their pace to suit. And looking back down into turn 1, Sam Kumar under pressure again from Loganov. So Loganov was trying to show himself in the mirrors as they approached turn 1, pulled up alongside, but wasn't close enough to consider a move really, and just had to hold on to that 8th position again for now. So we've had a few retirements, I think, since the race begun. So even with free tow, we've had several people go, I think. So I believe we're missing Danny Mastenbrook, we're missing Mark Cadix, we're missing Paul Van Merlo, and we're missing Mike Perry, I believe, no longer running.
Yes, the 4 guys that's dropped out so far, which means we've got 16 runners left. Having the few runners on the track should make the job for the front 3 or the top 3 a little bit easier. There's less traffic to contend with, and looking at the pace that the rest of the field is running, it'll make everybody's life a little bit easier.
Yeah, Sam Kumo can relax for a few laps now, as Loganov made a mistake somewhere on that last lap, and he's dropped a couple of seconds back now. So Sam has a bit of time just to gather himself again and see if he can make his way up towards Dean Prescott in front of him. Meanwhile, other than those 3 leaders, the main battle at the minute is for the tail end of the top 10. So we have Loganov recovering in 8th, there's Gustafsson in 9th, Chuck Johnson in 10th, and Marcel Langer in 11th, all covered just by a few seconds between those 4 cars. So we'll keep half an eye on them along with those leaders and see if anything develops. The points, by the way, for the prizes at the end of the race, pretty standard in terms of the race result itself. Winner gets the most points, loser gets the least points, but it's just 1 point between each position. So being that we had 20 people start, there'll be 20 points up for grabs for the winner of the race, and it'll drop down 1 then for each position. Bonus points for pole position, so that would have went to Schertren. He's got a bonus 1 point, as well as an extra bonus for whoever gets the fastest lap as well. But then there's also going to be penalty points, so that's difficult for us to obviously really see through the broadcast. We're not going to be able to keep track of how many instants the drivers get, but up to 6 instants you get no penalty points, and then every time you go up 2 from there, you get minus point, so a penalty point for each time you go, for instance, 7 and 8 instants, and then an extra point for 9 and 10, and so on. So really, until the race is completed and the admins have added up all the point scores and gone through all the instants, we're not necessarily going to know who's actually won the prizes at the end of the race.
Yeah, the leaders are going to have to keep an eye on that as well. But it's easy. You can win the race, and it's easy to then believe you've won the prize. But if you add up a couple of penalty points, it's Mr. Ramstein might just fancy himself if he comes out of this with a clean race.
Ooh, I just cut to Dean Prescott. He's losing control of the rear of the car entering. I think that is going to be turn 3 possibly. Just about, I think, kept it out the wall and maybe had the slightest contact with the tyre barrier. And it took him a long time to get better back onto track. So he's lost a good number of positions. He's around at the bottom of the top 10 now. We'll see if he's fit for repairs or for his fast tow. So just seeing the replay through the stream now, and yeah, it was turn 3 as he was coming up, and it's just going to be the wheel on the grass perhaps on the entry, and that's what's spun the car around and absolutely hit the barriers fairly hard. So we'll see if he manages to carry on without any repairs. But just as I said that, pitting in icon comes up for Dean, and so he does indeed dive into the pits, and he has to take his fast tow. Being there on lap 16, perhaps it will work out for his tyre and fuel stop that was required anyway. It's going to be a bit early maybe, but we'll see how that develops later on. That was a shame for Dean. He was running really strong, running ahead of his perhaps arguably more experienced teammate of Sam Kumo, ex-pro driver. So we'll see how well Dean can recover back through the field.
Yeah, they're just about 20 minutes into the race. That leaves them 2/3 of the race to go, and they're going to have to be really careful for the rest of the race now. We see Sam is in the pits as well. And
Kevin Parrish was under a fair bit more pressure at the beginning of the lap. We were watching on board of him, but he's managed just to gap Sheraton as they came through the second half. So those front three just ebbing and flowing slightly as they go through this first stint on tyres and fuel.
Both Sam and Dean are spending an awful lot of time in the pits at the moment.
Yeah, it seems perhaps we'll wait until we'll find out what happens later on. But it seems that perhaps the fast tow that was expected, the repairs in this race, perhaps hasn't been implemented. So that's going to really cost a few guys as they perhaps pit expecting to see that fast tow. But we'll see how that develops later on.
Sorry, Lee. That might also explain the amount of retirements we've had so far. And Dean's out of the pits again and on his way. We'll see how his car handles from here on in. It seems like we've lost Lee just there for a minute. Dean down into 14th place. A lap down. We'll see if he can claw back a couple of positions from here. He really could have done without that crash.
Let me unmute myself. Fortunately, Conrad, you've got a reserve commentator waiting in the wings that can step up just while Lee gets himself back and sorted. Yeah,
fantastic. Welcome, Mr. Simpson.
A bit of a shame for Dean there and Sam, both taking the time in the pits. So yeah, but just interested what's going on with this battle up the front. These guys just look like they've been separated by absolutely nothing through this race so far. Can't call it. I mean, we're not quite halfway through yet. Pit strategy definitely going to play a big part in this one. Those 3 or 4 laps that you were talking about earlier on, if one of the guys takes the jump in earlier, it's going to be very much like F1, where you're going to need to be in the next lap to cover them off. Otherwise, they're going to jump you for sure if they can have their 3 laps. Or do you go a little bit longer and try and come back at them towards the end of the race with fresh rubber? So
I think it's very much going to be a case of you're going to have to look and see when the rivals are pitting. They started the race. Those first 5 or 6 laps, they were running 1 minute 9s. They are now into the mid 1 minute 10s. And if you're going to run a few laps longer, you're going to get overtaken. You're going to get left behind during the pit stop phase.
Interestingly, there is another car just spins off in front of the leaders. They've been quite fortunate with the back markers so far today. I mean, I think Richard probably would disagree with me, being that Kevin made use of that back marker so expertly to get the move done and get himself up into first. But yeah, most of the guys been pretty good out there, let these leaders go, or they've just ironically spun out off the track and out of the way.
Yeah, they've been allowed to pretty much run their race without any spinning cars right in front of them. But they're just coming up to Mr. Rogan now. So we'll see how they handle the back marker through the twistier section of the track.
Yeah, just caught a little glimpse of Dean going off in turn 1 as well. He definitely looks like he's struggling out there. Sam Kumo back in the pits again, so yeah, something's not quite going on with the fast toe for him there. So back marker there, just having to get out of the way. Does a good job, all 3 leaders through.
I think the back marker, they just managed to close the top 3 up again a little bit. Kevin and second place was just starting to stretch the legs a little bit, pulling away from Ramstein, but he's right up on their backs again after negotiating the back marker.
Obviously the fog conditions making it just a little bit tricky for him, but while saying that, while we are on board, it doesn't look too bad, but there's a lot of build up on the windshield, so with that in combination with this weather, it's just going to make it a bit tricky for them. I think one of the reasons why Kevin probably wanted to get himself out in front early on, and he doesn't have too much build up on top of the conditions out there.
Yeah, I think you can do without running with a car in front of you with the conditions we've got. So really, the best place to be is to have a clear track in front of you, clear view, and know exactly where you're going and where you have to brake.
Right, sorry about that, guys. I am back and fired up again. Thank you for covering very competently, Alex. Seems we have, I suspect, a not particularly happy Dean Prescott in the Ready for Interview channels. Perhaps we'll drag him up for a mid-race chat. Good evening, Dean. Unlucky losing the rear of the car there into turn 3, and then yeah, talk through while we're at the race.
Yeah. As you said, caught the grass on the right. Car just snapped away, tried for the 2-foot magic save, and nah, just going too quick. A little bit disappointed, obviously.
You had a great race up until that point, running ahead of your much more experienced teammate Sam Kumo in I think it was 5th position, wasn't it? So
yeah,
you had a great start to the race.
Yeah, I had a good jump on Sam as well, but it's like earlier today with the V8s, but yeah, it's just a narrow track, so nowhere really to go, 2 lanes of traffic. Disappointed actually that there's no fast toes, which we were promised one, so
yeah, it's a bit of a shame that was expected as part of the settings for the race, but perhaps we'll look at that later on and say you easily could have been back in it. Do you think it was too early in the race for you to have been able to have topped up with fuel to the last rest of the session, do you think?
Well, it was, 16 laps in, and we've got 30 minutes left around about now, so I think I should have been fine to get back out and get going again.
Yeah, so that's a real shame. So yeah, good run until then, Dean, and we shall see you perhaps for the stream for the F1 iRacing Grand Prix Series tomorrow night.
Indeed, I shall be back.
Thank you, sir. Right, so we'll have a quick look at the on-track action again for a moment, and then we'll have a chat in a minute to Sam Kuma as well, who also unfortunately is out of the race. But just to have a quick look at the field, Kevin Parrish still in front. He's broken a little bit of a gap now to Schurter in second, so he's just trying to peel away. But Ramstein still is doing a great job of hanging on to the back of these two in third. Then in fourth position we have Mario Boudry still having the loneliest race of all, with Alexei then in fifth position, with Andrei Loganov closed up quite considerably from where he was earlier on when the Apex Racing cars were around as well. He's in sixth position, looking to move up into that fifth. Gustafsson, as I just cut to him, he loses a rear, ends up on the grass as he comes through turn 5 in 7th, but manages to recover, doesn't really lose any time. Chuck Johnson then in 8th, with Marcel Langner still close behind in 9th as he was earlier on, and currently rounding out the top 10 to Ivan Balder-Bosco.
Yeah, we've got the top 10 cars are all still on the lead lap. For some of the back markers, the guys that are a lap down, I suppose now it's just a case of making it to the end, as we've got Gustafsson coming into the pits. Himmler is already in the pits as well.
Yeah, so these could be the first of our scheduled stops then, we suspect. Let's just hope for them that if they pitted with any damage that they're not going to get held for too long as they try and decide and work out that there's no faster available, but we shall see.
Kevin Parrish is starting to pull a gap now. He's currently about 1.4 seconds clear of Scouteren and Ramstein. Well, I think we might have underestimated him a little bit. He is right in there, about a second behind Richard.
Yeah, he's absolutely in the hunt. I mean, Kevin Parrish just broken back into the 9s again. They were running 10 flats before, so he's just trying to stretch us out in the last few fumes of fuel that they've got before they pit. Right, so we're joined now then by another disappointed Apex Racing UK driver, I'm sure, in Sam Kumo. Even Sam, we didn't quite see perhaps the damage that you got that caused you to pit.
Yeah, good evening. Well, it was disappointing race for me. I mean, first of all, the car felt way different than I anticipated because of this weather. So I was struggling from the get-go and lost some place at the start. As for the crash, I forgot to turn off the notification messages, and when I was coming to the last turn, I saw Dean's message and missed my braking point and went head on to the walls.
Well, unlucky there, very easily done. I certainly have to do the same thing as well and turn all my notifications off to make sure I don't get distracted. And obviously, unfortunately, you're another car expecting a fast tow then, which didn't come, and the damage was also too much to continue.
Yeah, I had 10 minutes repair and it was still not in condition to race, so I had to retire.
Well, unlucky then, Sam. You're running strongly in the top half of the top 10 for most of that stint, so we'll look forward to seeing you, wherever we see you in the future, possibly back in the FW31 next season.
Yes, for the next season I will be back in the Williams, as I've been running the Lotus 79 for this season. But let's see if we can make it to the Pro Series this time.
Well, we look forward to seeing you progress into that, Sam, so good luck, and we shall see you again soon.
Yeah, thanks. See ya.
Right, so back with the leaders. Kevin Parrish is still streaking away is absolute exaggeration, still creeping away from Schurter in second. So again, Kevin Parrish is hanging on to the very high 9s, whereas Schurter is in the very low 10s. So not much between them, but it just lap after lap it's starting to make that slight difference as Schurter went a little bit deep, I think, into turn 1 there, and perhaps going to give Ramstein a little bit of a sniff this lap.
I think the magic number for Kevin at the moment is about 2.5 seconds. You get an incredible slipstream on the main straight here, and Shotorin is just he's hanging on there at the moment. And I just got a feeling if Kevin can get up to about 2.5 second gap to second place, he might just open that gap a little bit more, a little bit quicker.
And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how his pit stops turn out as well, because you do get a little bit of variation in pit stop times, and that could well end up shuffling these three around. So, like Kevin's managed to do, important this lap or his last few laps, to just try and create that little bit of a buffer, as you say, as Schurter now under lots of pressure from Ramstein as they head down the main straight. He's not going to have to defend, I don't think, on this lap, though. Ramstein does show himself up the inside to try and get Schurteren's attention, but into turn one, pretty clean for both of them, and looked like there was no particular net gain either way.
I think these top three guys are showing their class as well. We were wondering at the start of the race if they would just feel a little bit lighter, but they're about 33 minutes, almost 34 minutes into the race now, and they're still going. While everybody, a couple of the back marks from 14th up to 9th, most of them made a pit stop already.
And I wonder if
these three guys definitely in a class of their own.
Sorry, Fanaleds. I wonder if perhaps at the end of this lap where you're going to see one of the leaders come through, because on that lap, pretty much all three of them were significantly slower than they have been in the previous run. So Kevin Parrish got a 10.4 where he has been running in those high 9s, Schurteren was a 10.5, and Ramstein was a 10.2. So I wonder if they're just going to start to feel that these tyres are finally going to give up on them, and if they need to perhaps dive in. But as I say that, Kevin Parrish corrects himself with a 9.9. But Schurteren, under lots and lots of pressure from Ramstein, does have to defend this time. Ramstein looks to go up the outside of turn one. Just tries to brake a little bit earlier to cut back up the inside, but Schurteren struggles to control the rear, blocks that space off. Ramstein's going to get a good run towards turn 3 now, but it's not going to be a long enough straight to get alongside. This is just going to allow Kevin Parrish to continue to cruise away.
Yeah, Kevin's gap is now up to 3.2 seconds, and this fight is going to cost them both time. It might be a good time for Richard and Maxim just to dive into the pits, get the fresh rubber on, and hopefully on that outlap make some gains into Kevin's lead. Kevin stays out for another lap.
Yeah, as do Schurteren and Ramstein as well. They will continue by. So Ramstein's not quite as close this time coming onto the main straight for a run, so he's going to have to spend the next lap positioning himself ready for an opportunity later on. So, quick run through the standings again. Kevin Parrish still P1. Let's say bridging that, building that gap now that's been so tight between himself and Schurteren all race, with Ramstein then in 3rd. We've got Bourdry still in 4th, so Mario Bourdry, so he's still having his very, very lonely race. Alexei in 5th, and I think perhaps we've had a pit stop from Loganov maybe, because he was very close behind, but now Chuck Johnson is in 6th with Marcel Langer in 7th, and yeah, Loganov I think has made his pit. He's come out right amongst the leaders in fact, so he's currently in 8th position.
Yeah, Loganov's been into the pits as well as Gustafsson. Both of them have made their stops now, and it'll be interesting. Have a look at their lap times in comparison to the fastest lap they've set so far to see how they're doing on the fresh tyres.
Yeah, it's maybe not going to work out massively well possibly for Loganov, because he's behind Kevin Parrish. So if there is that big advantage for those first few laps on the tyres, Kevin Parrish on those old tyres, although he is running very, very quick, perhaps Loganov isn't quite going to be able to make full use of that potential and try and leap Alexei for that. It was 5th position.
I think the best Loganov can do now is just to sit behind Parrish and get a bit of advantage with the slipstream as well. His fastest lap so far is 1 minute 10.447, and Kevin Parrish's last lap was 1 minute 10.1. So there's definitely a little bit of an advantage you can get from that.
Yeah, and he is managing to stay very, very close to Parrish, and that's always going to be an uncomfortable position for the leader to be in, having to just keep a bit of an eye on the mirrors, make sure he's not going to run into the back of him into one of the heavy braking zones as he manages to follow pretty close for these last couple of laps since we've been watching. So again, if it's close for Parrish for his pit window, he may decide to dive in a bit earlier than planned. No, to get rid of that potential hazard, I was going to say, but he stays out still. And so Loganov is moving around as they come up towards turn 1, looking to again maybe just suggest that Kevin could let him by, but it's never really going to happen with Kevin only a few seconds ahead of second and third.
Yeah, Kevin running a little bit wide into turn 1. Loganov, so it looked like he was just having a little peek, but he backed off soon enough before turn 1 to make sure there was no contact between them.
So really it's all a minute about waiting to see when these leaders are going to pit, if they all dive in on the same lap, or if actually a bit of variation will help. A little bit of a mix-up in those top 3 positions. We shall see how that develops. And so we're about 2/3 of the way or so now through this Fanaleds challenge, the Cadillac CTS VR at Summit Point Raceway. Not that you'd necessarily be able to tell where we are from the heavy fog that the guys are having to deal with, but certainly for his lead cars, it doesn't seem to be affecting them too much.
They are running very consistent racing, very consistent lap times.
I just, sorry Conrad, I just watched Schertren light up the rears.
About pit stops. From the looks of it, it looks like they are going to run for as long as they possibly can before pitting. It's not the strategy that I would have thought at the start of the race was the optimal one. I mean, these guys race these cars week in and week out. They are definitely going to know better than I do about what strategy is the best to take.
Yeah, they're well and truly going for a splash and dash at the very end, I think. So yeah, 20 minutes left or so of our 60-minute race. Kevin Parrish dives into the pits. Right, so leader into the pits. Let's see if Schertren and Ramstein follow. Neither of them do, so second and third both continue around for another lap. So I would be looking at the pit lane at Kevin Parrish, but all I can see is fog, so it'll be a matter of just waiting to see how long he's stationary for, how quickly he managed to get out. Is he going to have a bit of clear track in front of him, or is he going to have any traffic to obstruct his progress?
He had a 33 or a 32 second gap to Bewdrey. Just as I said, that Bewdrey is jumping into the pits as well, so Parrish won't have to worry about him.
Yeah, so Parrish was stationary for 12.3 seconds for his pit stop, and he's come out fairly close behind Hendrik Hemmler. So we'll see if that's going to affect his progress too much and shuffle anything in the coming laps as Schertren and Ramstein at some point make their stops. So let's see if these guys are going to react to Kevin's pit stop that last time by. And Schertren very slow. I think he had a slowdown penalty. Schertren had a slowdown penalty in the middle sector, and they both slow down and run into the pit lane now. Anyway, or perhaps out of fuel. Maybe Alex Simpson suggesting Schertren very wild going into pit entry. Hopefully he got it slowed down enough and isn't going to get a penalty. So
yeah, there's a lot of engine sounds coming from Schertren's car, so I think running out of fuel might be spot on. And
so that was going to be a costly error. You know, he's worked so hard at keeping Ramstein behind him the whole race in that second position, and he just perhaps gifted it to him then, and as they entered the pit lane. But let's see who gets out first.
Oh, Kevin Parrish is through. He is well clear. Ramstein leaving the pits, and Schertren is still in there. That was a very costly mistake.
I wonder if Schertren's being held for pit lane speeding, perhaps. And so, yeah, he's much longer in the pit lane and finally moves away now. So really, that's, you know, barring any fairly catastrophic mistake from those 3 cars, that's the lead battle done and dusted now. Kevin Parrish, as he said, way in front. So that advantage you had perhaps in those couple of laps of fresh tyres has really made a big difference, with Ramstein then in second, and Schurter quite a way behind now, back in third place.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin came in and out of the pits as pit time around about 13-14 seconds, whereas Ramsden spent 24 seconds in the pits and Schurter 32 seconds. So it'd be interesting to know what exactly their issues was. Schurter is already having issues with his fresh tyres as well. The car getting out of shape really badly into the twisty section of the track.
I wonder if Parrish being so much quicker in the stop is maybe he took only fuel and no tyres, so towards the end of the race not much fuel to take on, so perhaps that made a difference. I've been mentioning a couple of times Paul Mario Bergery having such a lonely race the whole way through, so 45 minutes through the race he's pretty much been on his own. Not sure how happy he's going to be now to see that he has got a bit of company, so Andrei Loganov behind him in 5th position has closed up quite considerably in the last couple of laps. He was 2 seconds quicker last time around than Baudry as he runs out onto the gravel out the final corner. So that'll be perhaps a battle to see if it develops into anything in the coming laps. Loganov was a second quicker that last lap as well.
Baudry running very wide into turn 1. Yeah, it's interesting to see how one little mistake in the pits, or maybe not pitting early enough, can take you from having a fairly comfortable race to being under real pressure.
Oh, Kevin Parrish loses. Conrad. Kevin Parrish goes onto the grass approaching turn 1, loses the rear of the car, does a full 360, and recovers back to the track now. He's still got a comfortable lead, it looks like, to Ramstein behind, but I think Kevin Parrish had a back marker in front of him and was perhaps trying to encourage that back marker to let him by before the corner, and maybe just got distracted and put his right front and right rear onto the grass on the approach and spun him around.
Yeah, he was lucky not to have made contact there. It was very close as the back end came around.
So Ramstein's still a good 2-3 seconds behind, so it's not allowed him to really close massively in, but if Kevin Parrish has any more mistakes, that could just change up these top positions a little bit after me saying it was done and dusted. Jumping back to Mario Baudry, he's got Loganov much closer to him now, so Loganov's still a second a lap quicker at the minute, so again I wonder if that's a difference between taking tyres and not taking tyres perhaps. But Loganov is going to... Oh, Mario Baudry loses a rear coming through turn 6 there, and Loganov really had to get completely out of it to avoid contact.
I think we might have a case here. Baudry had the exact same pit time as Kevin Parrish, so possibly both of them still on the same set of tyres they started with, and now you're going to see the guys on the fresh rubber starting to make their way back.
So Baudry defends up in towards turn 1, Loganov looking to go around the outside. Back marker a little bit ahead as well. Who's going to be the latest and bravest on the brakes? Baudry manages just about to get slowed down, hits the apex. Loganov would have got a better exit, but just spins up the rear slightly. So it looks like Mario Baudry is just going to be safe for a moment longer. As Loganov runs very wide through turn 3, kicks up the dust as he drifts the rear of the car through the exit corner. Yeah, massive difference in pace between these two cars at the minute, so absolutely seems to be a difference in tyres as they go past a stranded back marker, Hendrik Kamala. So on that note then, if there is this big difference between these two cars and tyres, then actually are we going to see the same with Kevin Parrish? So, no is the answer. I've just flipped back and Kevin Parrish ran a 10 flat last lap and Ramstein ran a 10.1, so any difference in tyres there isn't affecting the performance as much. Right, so Loganov looking to get a run down the main straight again, but not anything like as close as he was last time by. Baudry still feels the need to defend a little bit and take the inside approach turn 1, which I was a little bit surprised by. It's going to be slower now coming out the corner. He runs a little bit deep as well. Loganov's got a great exit. Loganov's going to look to come up alongside as they come towards turn 3. And Voyager looks to defend again, takes it inside line, just comes across just about enough space. I thought there was going to be contact between the two there, but they just about get through turn 3 cleanly.
Oh, Loganov would have to be a very brave man to go for the overtake into that corner. It is, it's tricky to overtake through turn 3. And even the smaller cars like the Spec Racer or the Skip Barber, which I can't imagine.
Voyager again loses the rear of the car.
There's contact. Beauty losing it again, and Loganov just tapping on him on the back end, and then ultimately making the pass.
So that's Loganov up into 4th position now, relegating Voyager down to 5th after holding on that position all race long with just 10 minutes to go. So, quick run through the top 10 and I think. Kevin Parrish, P1, comfortably in front now, just needs to pace himself, not make any further mistakes. Maxim Ramstein in P2 looks pretty comfortable as well, with Richard Surterin way back in 3rd position. Andrei Loganov, we just saw, taking 4th position from Boydry in 5th. 6th position is Mikhail Gustafsson, just trying to deal with a back marker as they come through turn 1. Marcel Langner, not massively far behind Gustafsson in 7th, so that could possibly be something to develop as we go through the race. Alexei then in 8th, with Chuck Johnson fairly close behind as they come down the main straight in 9th. And then rounding up the top 10 is Make Rubin.
I think that fight for 5th, 6th and 7th might just heat up a little bit in the last 10 minutes of this race. There's a couple of corners that Mario Budry has been having real issues with, and the two guys behind him, Gustafsson and Langer, is running pretty consistent laps, and they are not too far behind. 10 seconds cover the 3.
So just counting down the laps now, with just come up to 8 minutes remaining of our 60-minute race. Leaders look pretty much done and dusted, and we just need to see, as you said, Conrad, how this developed for the 5th, 6th and 7th. Voyager at a minute is running at a pretty similar pace to Gustafsson behind, so they're running 11.7s that last lap, whereas Marcel Langer in 7th was almost a second quicker last time by. So we shall see, as you said, if he manages to close onto the back of 6th position.
Yeah, it would appear that a couple of people are just struggling from a few gremlins coming out of the pits. Those first few initial laps after making a pit stop seem to be quite tricky. But everything seems to have settled down a little bit now, and everybody just settling back into their rhythm. There's a few people I think that will look back on this race as a lost opportunity. Richard Schouten, definitely one of them. Starting on pole, running very solidly in the opening laps, and then just after he conceded the lead to Kevin Parrish, and those few laps leading up to his pit stop really cost him. Not even mentioning the fact that he seemed to have run out of fuel as he came out into the pits. And I think Mario Budry as well, running a lonely 4th place for most of the race, and then a few bad laps coming out of the pits has cost him as well. And he seems to have settled down a little bit now, although he's got Lange and Gustafsson just inching a little bit closer lap by lap, but yeah, he will look at that 4th place and think of what might have been.
So just to remind everyone, the winner, the highest points driver at the end of this race is going to have SLI F1 from Leo Bodnar. Fanaleds producing the software to go along with that in the coming days and weeks. And also there's going to be some iRacing credits to be dished out as well. So as you said, Conrad, I think a couple of people are going to be well and truly kicking themselves through any little errors that they've made through the race. But it was a tough combination. Summit Point Raceway, in the heavy fog, narrow track, twisty, big, heavy V8 car. We've not seen tons and tons of mistakes all over the place, so the guys seem to have dealt with it pretty well. So we see the headlights streaking through the fog.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I attempted a few laps in the Cadillac around Summit Point and the lead up to this race, and it's a very, very tricky combination. It is certainly not something that's my cup of tea. So respect to these guys for taking on the challenge and doing as well as they have.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise to everyone to have come in and seen this fog in the session as well. So that was an extra headache for us to deal with. I think perhaps a couple of people at the start decided that perhaps it wasn't worth the effort for them to go through. But for those that have, yeah, it's been pretty clean. Kevin Parrish not really making any further progress on Ramstein in second. So Parrish was getting on for 2.5 tenths slower that last time by. So Ramstein's still just keeping them honest, and any little mistake from Parrish now, and that's really going to open up that opportunity for Ramstein to nick into that top spot on the podium.
They've got about 6 minutes left to the end of the race, so it's really just Kevin's just got to keep it on track, keep it facing the right way, no silly mistakes, and he should be able to hang on. But if Ramstein is going to keep edging away like this for the next 3 or 4 laps, then it's going to be very tight come the end of the race.
Hopefully we saw it on stream, but at some point Gustafsson has lost his 6th position, so I think he must have had a little spin somewhere, because he's now quite a way back from Marcel Langer, who's been following him pretty much the whole race, I think. So yeah, Marcel Langer up into 6th and Gustafsson down into 7th position. So the only potential action really that we're seeing is between the leaders, which is no bad thing. Kevin Parrish has said in P1 with Maxime Ramstein in P2. Last time by, Kevin Parrish was 6 tenths of a second slower. So that was a big difference. And Kevin Parrish now got a couple of back markers in front, one fairly close and a couple more still down the road as well. So with the last few laps coming up now, this isn't necessarily all absolutely done and dusted. And perhaps this is now part of the difference of the taking of tyres on the pit stop starting to show as well. Perhaps now Parrish is just starting to struggle a little bit more with those older tyres.
Yeah, he did a 1 minute 10.6 the last time around. That's definitely one of the slower laps in the race. And Ramstein is the 1 minute 10 flats into the 109s.
Yeah, and it looks like it was just a
Kevin
single
going
mistake.
back with 110 flat on that
Absolutely.
lap.
And Ramstein was 2 tenths slower.
Yeah, just pulling 2 tenths out of Ramstein on that lap. Kevin Parrish got a back mark to contend with on this lap as well. So that might just give Ramstein a little extra bit he needs to catch up to Kevin as well.
A very slow back marker getting in the way of both of them through there. Kevin Parrish completely blocked by Hendrik Hemmler as they come into turn 5, sorry. And hopefully that didn't cost him too much time, but I think Hemmler's got some severe damage, or maybe has run out of fuel as well, perhaps. But yeah, he really got completely in the way of both Parrish and the back marker ahead of him, Alexei.
See, that gap is now down to under 2 seconds, and this is Ramstein is now going to get the slipstream effect down the main straight as well.
So yeah, 1 second off was Kevin Parrish that time by. That's what was cost of him. So again, yeah, with the back markers still in front as well, he needs just a clean couple of laps to finish up. Lap 49. Oh, and the back marker in front struggles to keep control of the rear as they come through turn 5. A bit of 2-foot hacks, I think, to keep it all under control. But just would have caught Kevin's attention, no doubt, as he's starting to see his mirrors gradually get filled more and more with Ramstein.
Yeah, I didn't. Kevin was behind him there for
And the back marker
at least a lap
let's see.
too long. And it's a shame when the back markers don't really take notice of the front runners and then give them the space and let them by quick enough.
So very, very fortunate for those lead cars, so Kevin Parrish and Ramstein, as Alexi stuffed it good and proper into the barrier in the final corner, turn 10. So lucky that the other two managed to get by cleanly and didn't get tangled up.
Yeah, I think Alexi is stuck. He's in the tires and you can hear the engine going, but the car is not budging.
So Ramstein making a real good job of trying to give this make this a race towards the end here. So he's just a second or so back now, and we've got to be on to the last lap but one, I'm thinking. One more round perhaps, we shall see. And Kevin Parrish, no doubt, is desperate for those seconds to keep ticking away. Right, so come on to the front straight again. Looks like less than a second now between these two cars. They come over the start-finish line. And Kevin Parrish responded to the pressure with getting back into the 9s again, but Ramstein a 9.6 that time by, so still managed to take 3/10 out of him, even though they both were significantly quicker than they have been for quite a while.
Yeah, Kevin's got both of them has got a favourite of clear track to run in at the moment, and the next time by should indicate the last lap. Right, so the white flag is out. And Kevin is going to take this win by the smallest of margins, less than a second, with Maxim Ramstein in second place.
And so, as you said, that is end of the race. Kevin Parrish managing to hold on. Ramstein in second. In third position there is going to be Scherterin. He's just coming out the final corner now onto the main straight to bring up that last podium spot. Could have been so much more. Back in fourth is going to be Andrei Loganov. So he comes towards turn 10 now to get onto the front straight. Manages to get through cleanly, does he? Yeah, quite happily through there. So fourth position for Loganov. Mario Boydri back in his lonely spot as he's now used to, back in fifth position, coming up to finish his lap. And then in sixth position is going to be Marcel Langer, with Mikael Gustafsson recovering in seventh. And everybody else is a lap or more down, it seems. So that was a pretty dominant.
Sorry, I think with the normal iRacing series we run, we sort of used to the fact that time runs out and then you do another lap after that. And I was fully expecting them to run another lap, but in the end, that was a very close race, and that the two strategies panned out in the end. There wasn't much between them.
No, it'd be interesting if we hear from him after the race in terms of whether we've got that difference in strategy right. If that is what made the difference for Kevin Parrish on the pit stops. But as you said, it was a pretty close run thing between those top two cars at the end there. As Kevin Parrish, I think, is going to celebrate with a couple of donuts perhaps over the start-finish line. So yeah, it was a pretty full field at the start. So it was a shame that a number of cars got damaged into that turn one from 12th position back, something like that. And then really focus of the race was watching those top 3 cars being nose to tail really until good halfway through the race. Just a second or so between the 3 of them all the way, and and then after that just started to perhaps just string out a little bit with that difference in strategy. Scherteren just confirming in chat that he did get pit lane speeding penalty, as I had thought, as he struggled to get the car slowed down and lost control going into the corner.
Yeah, I went from bad to worse for Scherteren, as well as getting the penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He also confirmed that he ran out of fuel. So if you have bad pit stops, that is going to be a bad pit stop, no doubt about it.
Alright, so we'll hang on for a moment or so to see if anybody wants to come up and join us for an interview before we wrap up the stream. We'll have a look at the first lap in the meantime as well, and see have another look at that first turn incident.
As far as the points for the race go, we'll also have to see how that pan out. Kevin did have that spin in turn 1 behind the back marker, which in which he would have picked up a couple of off track or lost control to penalty points. Ramstein, he's got to be my driver of the race. He kept out of trouble. He ran a very, very clean race. I think ultimately he was very unlucky not to take the win.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how those points turn out. As you said, it could be pretty close from those top 3. So we know Scherteren would have got a bonus point for his pole position. I don't know who got the fastest lap. So if Scherteren managed to get the fastest lap as well, then that's going to put him tied then with Kevin Parrish. And as you said, it could be penalty points that would make any further difference. So we'll have to wait and see. Have to catch up on private league and hosted events thread on iRacing to get the final points tally when they are totaled up and tallied up. Right, so we've got Kevin Parrish in our interview channel, so we'll drag him up and congratulate him on his pretty dominant display from the outside. But Kevin, it was a close run thing for the first half of the race, right?
I'm sorry?
Congratulations, Kevin, on your result, on your win. Well done today. It looked pretty dominant from the outside, but the first half of the race was very, very tight between those top 3 runners.
Yeah, those first 30 laps, it was between any of us. Any one mistake would have switched the positions around. Looks like I got a good pit stop, and I don't know if it was a strategy. I don't know if the other guys took tires and I didn't, but it worked out.
Yeah, that was going to be my very next question, Kevin. We suggested that perhaps you hadn't taken tyres, so that's what you said there. So we think that's perhaps what the guys didn't do. That's what made the difference and gave you that good gap after your pit stop.
Yeah, I felt that there was no need to. I was looking at my lap times in the first half of the race, and they weren't dropping too much, and they seemed to have stabilized about at a 10.1, so I was pretty happy with that.
And you said all it would take would just be one mistake, and it looked pretty clean the whole race from you, Kevin, just until you got caught, I think, with a back marker approaching turn 1. Just talk us through what happened there.
Yeah, that's actually what I was just talking to him about, actually. That was no fault of his. That was a brain fart of mine. I was doing some fuel math in my head at the time, and he hit the brake lights, and I got startled.
Well, fortunately, it didn't cost you any positions, and obviously we don't know your tally of instant points, but hopefully it hasn't cost you any points in there either. So we'll wait to see the final results posted up and the final points tallied.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Alright, I think we also have Mario Boydry, who's also come in to join us, so we can drag him up and see how he enjoyed his mostly lonely race in that 4th position. Good evening, Mario. It looked like a pretty lonely race for the majority of that, sitting in that 4th position. How was it for you?
Well, it was pretty good. I mean, good quality racing. The fog was unexpected. So, oh, sorry, I got some feedback.
Yeah, no worries. As you said, unexpected fog, but they said it was looked like good qualifying, as you said, but just running on your own most of the race. I bet you were disappointed to have a bit of company in Andrei Loganov catch you in those closing laps.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he came out of nowhere. I don't know if he put it earlier. I guess that's what he did, and obviously it was much quicker than me. So, but we had a few laps with a good fight. I lost it in a very technical corner of the track, and we had a little accident, but it was mostly clean racing.
Okay, well, congratulations again then on your 5th position, Mario. I was saying to Kevin Parrish a minute ago, we'll wait to see the final points tallies and see if anything unexpected occurs with prize results, but well done on your part.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Good work on the broadcast.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you again. Right, so don't look like we've got anybody else joining us for an interview, so I think that's going to wrap up our broadcast of the Fanaleds Challenge from Summit Point Raceway. So you'll have to check in on the thread at a later time to see who came out top on points and who received those prizes. So thanks to Fanaleds for putting on the show. Thank you to Conrad for keeping me company in the commentary booth, and for Alex looking after the cameras and temporary commentating midway through as well. And we shall see you all tomorrow night for the iRacing Grand Prix Series live stream for the 6 o'clock GMT race right here, same place. See you all again. For the most realistic steering system available on the market, look no further than Sim Steering from Leo Bodnar. Designed and hand-built at the home of British Motorsport's Silverstone circuit, it's extensively used by professional driver training centres and race teams including Formula 1 since 2010. The high precision and completely linear response coupled with high strength provides the ultimate in realistic steering force feedback. Visit simsteering.com.